Well, hello everybody. Happy Monday and welcome back to Aquarius Rising Africa with me, Chantal, your hostess. Already, I have the mostest of everything. That's good. So, yeah, welcome back and thoroughly happy to have Beverly on again this evening with me. Morning for you, afternoon, whatever. Wherever in the beautiful world you are, happy Monday. And we're going to be talking actually about Beverly's, let me see if I can get this right, but it's off-worldly experiences. So super duper interesting. So stay tuned for that. But before we go ahead with the show, let me read out this week's schedule so that you definitely don't miss any of our shows. Okie doke, so tonight is Beverly, of course. Tomorrow is the final episode of the mini series of the Ankara field, explaining to everybody and you guys what us Ankarians do, who we are, what we do. And it's actually quite amazing when we look at the principles of the Ankara field, how they match with Tartaria, actually. Super interesting. Anyway, Solutions with Chanti again, spiritual forensics with Beverli Rhodes, the lady in the waiting room, and moi. Tomorrow night, our spiritual microscope magnifying glass goes on to the Karen Reed story. Very interesting. So for those of you not familiar with Karen Reed, just in a quick nutshell, she was the girl who was the girlfriend of the cops in America, one of the cops, and was accused of murdering him by driving him over on a snowy night and leaving him there. Obviously, there was lots of partying and lots of alcohol involved, but she was basically absolutely accused and had the entire police force against her. So she has been proven innocent, but a very, very, very interesting story. So join us for the Karen Reed story as we do our spiritual forensics and shine a light on that at the moment. Wonderful. So on Wednesday, you want to stay tuned for this as well. Jesse and I will be talking about Venezuela and the recent shenanigans going on there, as well as P. Diddy and the baby oil saga. You know, we saw the baby oil drama happening with Diddy. No one could understand why. There were a ton of memes going around. But at the end of the day, I think there's a lot more to that baby oil story than what we know. So check it out with Jesse. Yeah. Then on Thursday in the field with Chanti, absolutely. And this week I'm looking at soul ties and intimacy. So what is soul ties and how does lack of intimacy actually create that? And what is true intimacy? Intimacy is definitely not sexual in the only way. And I do believe that because the majority of us have massive issues with intimacy, which is why we create soul ties with other people. So join me for that. And then, of course, Thursday night, Dr. Dennis Carroll, and we've got Dennis and Jesse together again. We'll be talking about folklore, vampires, werewolves, all those dodgy creatures of the night. Friday at 2:00 South African time, Guy Anderson, the Tartaria expert. Wow, I'm loving his book. I'm busy, actually. I've got his book on audio book right now, and I'm listening to his book, Tesla and the Cabbage Patch Kids. Absolutely fascinating. Guy Anderson is unbelievably knowledgeable on these topics. So join us on Friday. Then, of course, a drop-in with Chanti and Solutions. Not sure what the topic is yet, but oh yes, what I'm going to be doing then is what we did this Friday. Actually take a like an episode of a documentary or something like that, and just come hang out and watch it with me and we comment on it. This last Friday, we actually spoke about climate change and the way we've been lied to and why we're paying for our existence. And we watched one of the episodes of the sequel to The Fall of the Cabal, where she speaks about the absolute lie of climate change. And of course, that lie of climate change is a direct result of us having to live in smart cities. So go figure, right? Very interesting information there. So if you haven't caught that, please do. And then this week we will be talking about also a sequel to Fall of the Cabal, but we delving deeper into the Rothschilds. So who are the Rothschilds? Where do they come from? How do they infiltrate? Why are these controlling parasites controlling our planet? And how did they manage to do that? So we're going to be checking into the Rothschilds on Friday with Drop-In. And then, of course, Saturday, the Reham, and Sunday, the Loop, where we replay older shows. Yay. Well, I do believe that is it for our announcements for the week. I want to just take this off. Okay. Oh, I do have one more announcement, please, guys. As you know, on this channel, we take care of survivors as well. So I have a survivor in need right now. And if there's anyone who can and is willing to support, he is one of our survivors, not one that speaks up. There's quite a few that is behind the scenes, but doing his best to get things on the move for himself. Also looks after a whole bunch of animals within his community. That's part of his therapy. So if there's anyone who is able to help us with supporting another very worthy survivor who is making massive changes in life as well. And it's wonderful that we are able to support these beautiful, amazing men and women at times like this when they really do need it. So if you're able to assist in any way, you can just click on the link below. You can either buy a coffee or contribute to my PayPal link. And you can just write in the comments what the contribution is for. Much appreciated. Thank you so very much for those of you who do that. And without any further ado, Tara, the lady of the evening. I was about to say the lady of the night. I thought, no.
No, not good.
No, the lady of the evening.
Oh, that's too funny.
Bev, how are you, beautiful?
I'm fine. After fighting with all the pillows on the couch.
Couch.
Bloody thing.
I know. It's so important to have a beautiful couch. Listen to me, a comfortable couch. Beautiful is, I mean, you know, you can make an ugly couch is often the most comfortable. All you do is throw a beautiful throw over it and you go, oh, boho. I love boho. You know, boho, you can do anything with boho.
Exactly. I agree. I do.
Yeah, totally. Me too. The parts of my house are completely sleek. Other parts are very boho. Other parts are very normal. Other parts are full of fairies. Other parts of Cape Islands.
Fairies are good. I must say, I commend you on helping survivors as well. That's a wonderful cause to be helping survivors.
Yeah.
They do have a lot of survivors find things extremely difficult, and if you're able to help, that's really wonderful.
You know, I have such a soft spot for you survivors. I really do. And I've seen how difficult it is, you know, how difficult the parasites make life for survivors.
Yeah, they do.
You know, if they do not want your story coming out and talking, and if they feel you're just getting a little bit too much attention, and, you know, it's even being a host of this channel, because I don't just have one troll. I've got everyone that I interview, I've got their trolls after me. You've got to understand. You got to understand. So it's like darts coming at you. So I see what so many survivors go through. And every month it's a battle. It's a battle for them to keep their chins up, their heads above water. And, this particular one I'm speaking about is a great love for animals. So does a lot for animals in the community as well. There's a lot of cruelty to animals in the area. And boy, they protect them to the best that they can. So I love to be able to support people like that. So if you guys are in any way able to support, please do. It's a real worthy cause. It's really, and it's important, because part of what we do on the Ankara field is we understand that it's important for humans and animals equally to be at ease, right? It's so important that animals are at ease and happy and contented, because this is their planet too. We're all, just cohabiting with each other. So when, there's so many people that I see going the extra mile to help animals and stuff like that. It's amazing. It really is. So thanking you all in advance. Thank you. Anyway, we're going to be having a very interesting topic tonight, madam. And I know we kind of said disclosure in the UK, and that's the conference you did recently. And I think we should actually maybe break that whole disclosure section down into a few, maybe 2 or 3 shows, I'm not sure. Because I think you guys, there was a lot of very interesting speakers. I know Penny Bradley was also a guest on the show. She was also a speaker. I know she wasn't live, or she wasn't there in the flesh, but she's an amazing source of information, that lady. Wow.
It's very clever.
She's totally, the experiences that she's had, and the information. And again, if you guys haven't watched Penny Bradley's shows, I really want to invite you to. She spent 25 years on Mars, and was on the Montauk programs, and what was the other one? I think Langley as well, so real, and still also, I think she's probably around about the same, even a bit older than you, I think. So part of the original survivors, that, and I know in her group, it's either her or Juliet Engel. Out of 1,000, a group of 1,000 kids, she's the only survivor of that entire group. Isn't that terrifying? Isn't that heartbreaking? Isn't that, I don't think we have an iota of an understanding, unless you've been in that world, how tough it is. So, and Penny Bradley said something very interesting the other day, and, I think it's very important for us to all realize that. Survivors, and she said it straight, survivors are not very nice people, and I totally get that. Because when all you can do is survive, and people are pushing your buttons and asking stupid questions and accusing you of ridiculous things, and I don't know, I've seen a lot of it over the years. You just have to be able to understand what the survivors have been through. You really just have to take a step back and take a breath and just be very, very grateful that if you did not go through that, you are lucky.
Very blessed.
I'm lucky. Yes. Absolutely.
Because survivors are disposable. They're disposable creatures. They're just like, oh, okay.
But they are so not. They've got the most invaluable information. I get so frustrated because if you look at what's happening in Canada at the moment, is it the MAID program, which is pretty much assisted suicide. And they're making it so easy for people to go for assisted suicide. And the majority of people going are veterans. They're making it accessible and really tempting for veterans who've got PTSD, health issues, no one there. They feel like they're alone in the world. It is absolutely horrific what is going on. So we have to acknowledge all of these things. You know, we really do.
Yeah, it's not the easiest, but I think, you know, most survivors, I think there's two different types. There's the ones that allow their anger to show, but then there are others that are called the Ice Queen or the Ice King. And they are the ones that have got this golden cage around them and nobody can reach them. And that's just pure protection. They just protect themselves.
Absolutely.
Because unfortunately, they're disposable. They do. They get bumped off, unalived so often that it becomes like, oh, for goodness sake, you know. They used to say things like, oh, you know, you'll end up praying. You will pray to be allowed the grace to pass away. This is what they say. You will pray.
It's so fucked up. It's so fucked up.
And you know what? What's worse is they were right, because that is what happens. By about the 5th or 6th time that you've been unalived and brought back and done the same and done something else or sent somewhere else or whatever, and then ended up in pieces and then be reconstituted again. By the time you've done that 4 or 5 times, I can tell you factually from personal experience, you do wish, oh, for goodness sake, you know, just let me pass away, for goodness sake. But they don't.
And it's also, you know, when you speak into a lot of people that have been through these programs, they pretty much bring you back, you know.
Oh, they do.
Death is not an escape. I mean, you would know that.
I know.
Death is not an escape. So they will bring you back and boom, the next thing you're in another reality, timeline, body, whatever the hell it is. I mean, this stuff is so bizarre. But it's happened to a lot of people.
There's too many
so,
of us.
Yeah.
Too many of us now with exactly the same story, just different faces, different names, different places. But if you look at it, the baseline of the information is all exactly the same. We're all saying the same thing. We're all talking about the same individuals. We're talking about the same places. It's just in personal experiences that differ. That's all. Not a lot.
Yeah. It's so true. It's the personal experiences that differ, but the template is the same. They will use the same cookie cutter, and they will put different colors or different flavors or whatever it is in that gives each one their own nuance. And, you know, that's one thing I'm seeing more and more as well.
I think it's going to become very obvious. I think there will be a movie one day. You mark my words. There will be a movie that will come out where there's some poor Okie Pinokie that keeps on coming back and coming back and coming back.
Yeah.
There's going to be a movie of it because, you know, it's too good a movie to create. And it's an easy one to create. You know, you just have one star of the show and keeps coming back, you know, cheap as chips, as they say. I'm expecting that. I reckon in the next year, there'll be some SSP or something about somebody that has a soul that just keeps coming back and gets regurgitated and comes back all the time. I guarantee they'll do that. It's too good to miss.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've no doubt about that. Absolutely. It's all, I mean, you know, it's all out there anyway. It really is. It's all out there. And if you're watching documentaries already, I mean, there's a lot of smaller movie producers at the moment making a whole lot of this type of stuff anyway in their own, because now, you know, I think it's so much easier for the average person to create their own movies and documentaries because technology has made it a lot easier. And of course, there are a lot of smart people out there. I got to say, I adore the internet sleuths. I love them. If you need any information, you just ask their viewers and they know the stuff. They'll give you the links or whatever. You know, it's amazing. And I really thank you guys. I really appreciate you. You guys have made me grow in ways, man. Just the knowledge, the information available. Anyway. Yeah, another blood-soaked Groundhog Day. It's so true. It's so true. It's so true. Anyway.
So conference was down in Wiltshire. So for those that are not familiar with the UK, we were exactly 18 minutes from Stonehenge. And about on the other side as well, we were about 25 minutes from Avebury. So if you think about Stonehenge and Avebury stones, and we're slap bang in the middle, that tells you what sort of energy was happening in that area. Very high number of crop circles in that area. And basically we were joking about the fact that that area really is like a UFO corridor. You can go out at any time and look up at the sky and you'll see a whole bunch of strange things in the sky and you'll think, oh, I wonder what that is. Wonder what that is. You know, even when we were there, it was like we saw unusual things and these big orange things in the sky. And you think, hang on, well, that's not a plane. What on earth is that? And then by the time you get to park and look, it's gone. So it's a very spiritual, very mystical, but it is a very heavily energetically charged area. So we were very lucky in as much as that's the area that the organizers chose to do the conference.
It's so important now because, you know, what we're seeing more and more is how the parasites have flipped God's original blueprint. It was very clear to me, especially, I don't know if any of you guys watched Jessie's show on Wednesday on Greenland, when, you know, she had the original blueprint, which is the astrology of the heavens, basically, okay, and how these guys take that and they obviously create their own little disgusting portals to hell. It's so clear to me how they invert it, and that's what, you know, we must never forget, they get this information from God. So there's nothing, just because we call, let's say, for example, because they use Kundalini energy for the most disgusting sex magic practices, and they steal it from a child's body mostly, and other people's bodies too, right? Does not make Kundalini evil. Kundalini is an energy that resides in the base of your spine. And as you walk the road of awakening, it's like the codes in your body are fired. And at a certain point, Kundalini activates. And it's like energetically then, and that'll only happen when you are ready, or it should. It's part of the awakening or evolution within your own human physiology, right? Where you awaken to a higher version of who you are as you learn. That's what Kundalini does. So she coils up the spine, reactivates the central nervous system in the body, reactivates the neurons in the brain, and reactivates what other people don't tell you is the Kundalini within the cells of the body. Every cell in your body contains Kundalini as well. Kundalini is merely the energy of transformation. When you are ready for transformation, Kundalini opens up the doorways. That's what Kundalini is. And it's almost like a blissful experience. So I would imagine it's like orgasmic, which is why they would use it for sex magic, because it's complete bliss. And you'll also see in some of the Eastern practices, they force Kundalini awakenings. They will force you, they'll go, and that's also not natural, because that can drive you crazy, or it can literally take you out. But, you know, these are the things, and that's what I do. And that's why on the Ankara field, I'm showing you guys how to reclaim these aspects of yourself, reclaiming our spiritual gifts. Spiritual gifts by nature aren't evil. It's what you do with them. And you have every right to use them for God's purposes. That's your responsibility, in fact, to use it for God's work. Just like the devil uses it for his nefarious purposes because he steals, we don't. It's the opposite thereof. We reclaim the power of crystals. We reclaim our symbols. What are the symbols truly meaning? Not what they're using it for, because everyone just sees that. But they got that from somewhere that they've inverted. So we're showing you the uninverted, the natural way that things should be. So join us. That's what we're doing. Anyway, well, Beverli, we are talking, and I mean, also on spiritual, what I want to say about spiritual forensics tomorrow night, we're talking about the Karen Reed case, right? That's going to be super interesting.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of research on that over the weekend, and it's quite interesting about how they've closed ranks and how they changed things, and how there was, the following the chain of command was not actually happening. So there's lots of additional energies flying in from all over the place. So it looks like there's a different outcome, I reckon, will come out, but it's going to be one of those that at the center of it is the chap that unfortunately is unalived, and that's going to be the big aspect, is looking at him but also looking at her. And she has been, as you said, she's been found not guilty, so there's going to be a lot of questions around what actually did happen, and that's going to be something to talk about.
That's what you're doing on spiritual forensics, reclaiming our spiritual gifts, shining light where light has not been shone before. No, not up your bum. Not up your bum. On this case, okay, tomorrow. So we'll see you there. Now, for this evening is very super duper interesting. You have shared with us over the past few months your horrific experiences at the hands of your controller, Patrick Daniel Rhodes, who, in case you guys don't know, is part of the Cecil John Rhodes clan, who was the original prime minister of Rhodesia, now Zimbabwe, and who is responsible for massive atrocities on this continent. Massive. Not just with the people and the children, but also with the evil he brought in here over the years with the mining and everything else as well. So you've spoken to us a lot about that and your experiences. God forbid I should ever think about that again. I haven't thought about that for a while. As a vampire nanny, that gave me PTSD for months to think that a vampire bit you. Oh, okay. Being part of that. And also most where I know you from is the 90s, where you were a very well-known psychic here in South Africa. And then, of course, as it turns out, you were the psychic for the presidents, the ex-presidents. But, of course, none of us knew that at the time. You were kept quiet for 25 years and have just started speaking again. But mostly you've spoken about your physical, earthly experiences, trafficking, being trafficked, etc., and you've dropped some big names for us. But I was very interested to hear also more about your story, that you've had some very, very interesting off-worldly experiences as well, where you've called it the 3x20 year cycle or 3x20 cycle. So, which was 1964, 1987, and 2005. Okay, so speak to us about what that is, please.
Well, it's 20 years off planet. So it's 20 years off here into facilities that are either organized by whoever your handlers are, because unfortunately you don't get away from handlers that easily. And I will say, cautionary term, that those families, the Illuminati type families that know about things and know about off-world, they still have their little fingers in those pies off-world too. Just because it's off-world doesn't mean to say it's off limits for them. It's not. They will find individuals that are in the families, and they will make sure that they make use of them, not just here, but also off-world too. So when you think that maybe what's happening off-world is a totally different energy, different kettle of fish, no. there are lots and lots and lots and lots of those families are present off-world as well. They're not just here on Earth. They're off-world too. So when you look at where I started with mine, the original house that I was in 1964, when I was 3, that was actually one of the main houses that belonged to the family. And they had no idea that I'd walked out and toddled out back through the back section of the house, because the back gates had been left open, because they just had bin day. They had to put the bins out on the pavement. And I don't know what the reason was why the gate was left open, but it was left open. And I then walked down the drive, got to the bottom of the drive, turned left, and then walked down the close. It was like a cul-de-sac type thing. It's called a close. And walked down the close and then turned left again and walked down the road and ended up going across an old-fashioned, it's like a steeple. So it's got like 2 little bits of wood, and you go around the wood and then you can go up into whatever the field is. The sheep can't get out, but as a human, you can get through that piece, because you've got to walk this way, that way, and then like a zigzag, and sheep can't get through there. It's not something that they can figure out. For them, when they look at it, it just looks like the whole fence is one fence, but actually it's not. And that's what happened with me. And I was heading up the hill towards the copse, which at the top of the hill, there was lots of little trees, quite a few trees, actually. I was heading up to that and just basically just walking and minding my own business and just picking flowers and picking dandelions and all of that. The sheep took one look at me and thought, well, who's this little person? I'm not going to bother with her. And they never think, sheep are very timid little creatures. So looked at me and thought, we're not messing with that one. And then they went off to the other side. And that was the first one. And that was very early 60s. That's 1964. But that was, they'd already had all sorts of clandestine meetings, and they had done all sorts of things in that house. So for me, the nonsense had already started with that family. So the fact that I could get out the back and get outside and just walk and quite free before they even realized that I was gone, then it was too late. I was already gone. They couldn't find me. They had no idea where I was. And at that time, then there was a craft that was at the top of the copse. And luckily for me, because it was getting late, there was an egg-shaped vehicle that had come down, and then I was scooped up with that. So when they started dashing around, I would imagine I heard afterwards that they had, got all the neighbors in the close and got everybody that was this side and that side. Was she with you? Is she with you? Where is she? And then started looking. But because of the level of clandestine sort of negative aspects that the family were involved with, they took a very long time, a couple of days actually, to let the authorities know that I was missing, because of the types of activities that they had been involved with. They had to make sure that they cleared everything, that there was no trace of anything anywhere. It had all been moved. Nothing was anything, nowhere. No knickers of children, no children's clothes that, might have had things on them, trace elements of bodily fluids, shall we say. And all of that had to be gone before they even alerted the authorities to a missing child. So it took them a while. And then shortly after they were alerted, then I was found. So from that point of view, nobody ever knew what was really going on in that house, and nobody ever knew what they were involved with and how deeply they were involved with stuff, because they hid it all. So that was the first one. And then the second one was during a really difficult operation in the 80s, 87. And that was another one where then I was asked if I would do a further 20 years, because they don't just take you. They will ask, they do ask, are you prepared to work for 20 years with us, and then we'll bring you back. We'll regress you, put you back to the time frame that you were in. Because remember, they can manipulate the timeline very easily. They can plop you in and pull you out.
Who's they? When you say they ask you if you are prepared to do it, etc. Who is this? Because this sounds like a different kind of energy than the one you used to on Earth, right? Who controls you and forces you. And
the ones here, the Earth ones, the ones that are part of the bigger families, you don't have a say in anything, not at all, not in any way, shape, or form. You do as you're told or else. And that's very common. They will say, they will say to you directly, what happens to you if you don't comply. And that's how they say, and and you think, oh God, here we go. And for me, it was always, they knew how to get to me. It was always to hurt my animals. So eventually you do comply, because you do, damn well, if you don't comply, it's not you. Because, they are damaging the goods. The goods are getting damaged, and they don't want to do that, because then your monetary value starts dropping. So what they'll do is they'll damage something else. They'll hurt something else, or, really, really cause trauma and pain, terrific suffering to animals. And they know that eventually you'll give in and you will do exactly what they want them to do, because you won't want to see your animals being hurt. So it's a totally, you're right, it's a different kettle of fish. Here, the ones that are pushing children to do various things, they have absolutely no compassion from what I've seen. No compassion at all. None at all. Whereas the ones that are off-world, and it's not just one race of beings, it's different types of races of beings. There, as much as there are those here on the earth plane that are either, that are very, very positive, very good, and very careful, compassionate, you also have those that are not. And it's exactly the same off-world. So there are those that will ask, are you prepared to work for 20 years and be either age progressed, which was the first time in the 1964 cycle, progressing the age to where I was able to work, because 3 years old, you're not going to do very much. You're not going to be able to be a person that does any specific type of work. So what they do is they will progress you to an age that you can make that decision. I think you're on mute.
Okay, take us back to when you were collected in your eggshell, for want of a better expression, when you were 3 years old. And you were gone literally, physically, for a few days. And then you just came back. They just plopped you back off home a few days later.
So they didn't put me back in the field. I'm not quite sure why they didn't. What they chose to do is they found there was a train, I think it was a steam train that had been abandoned and was left in a siding on a railway line. And that was down in the Plymouth area. And I was placed into where the fire gets put into the old steam trains. So there would have been some leftovers of coal or anthracite or whatever it was. And that's pretty much where I was found, curled up, leaning against the side of the wall. I was not put back in the field. And I guess they're probably thinking that, what would be the explanation of a child being found in a field literally down the road? And it's down the road and to the left of where the original house was. So I think there.
How long were you gone for?
It was about two and a half. I think it's about 2.5 days Earth time here.
Right, and that equaled like a 20-year cycle. Okay, so let's go back to when you are taken. I don't want to say abducted because that sounds dreadful. When you were taken at the age of 3. talk us through that from when you were taken. As you say, you kind of went this field with the sheep. At what point did you know you were in a surreal type environment? Who met you and how was it? How did you get to be, what did you do in this 20-year cycle that was all of 2.5 or 3 days on
Okay,
Earth
so
time?
that's quite a lot to unpack there. So we'll start with the first bit.
Yeah.
Is I was just playing in the field, running up, and just as any 3-year-old would do, is not really understanding danger, not understanding other animals, just thinking, oh, that's a nice fluffy little thing. I want to go touch it, that sort of thing as a 3-year-old. But I also wasn't aware at that time of, that the sun was starting to go. It was getting cooler, and didn't even think about any of that. Absolutely not. So it was more like I then was scooped up by the egg craft, but the egg craft was here, and further up was the very, very large craft, the main craft. So
Right.
I was scooped up into that very carefully as a child, was left on my own in the egg, taken back up, and then when I got up to the top, was taken into a very lovely big room. A lot of other children in that same room, lots of other children in the same room from all over, many different languages. I was just very happy because at that time I was still an only child and I was still very much alone. And it was great to see, oh, wow, things to play with, other children, was really quite exciting. Very climate controlled. I was not cold. I was not hot. I was not sweating. Nothing. Just sitting on the floor with the other kids. And that was quite nice. And it was almost like you could understand what the other children were saying, even though, I couldn't speak Mandarin, I couldn't speak Korean or Japanese or anything, but we all understood each other. And
Was it telepathic?
I think either telepathic or maybe they had some sort of devices in the room, because we never moved out of that room. We were always
Right.
in that room, all of us. And we all
So
sat there.
So what did you think when you were being scooped up? I mean, I can imagine as a little kid, you just being, and who was scooping you up and who was in charge of you guys?
The person that was in charge, there was a couple of people that were in charge, but the main one that was in charge was a being called Da'a. And Da'a, for whatever his reasons were, he's not actually a commander. He's not like an officer. He's not any of that. He's actually a scientific vessel. And he was looking at different peoples. So he was looking at different genetic patterns. He was looking at different countries. And this is why he had pretty much a couple of children from each different types of races. So there was a good selection of all of us there, different types of peoples from different types of nations.
What constellation or planet is he on or from?
But he's not on those anymore. He was from the constellation or the area that is known as Lyra before the Lyran Wars. I mean, we are going back 61 years now, our time.
So can you explain what he looked like physically? Did he look like a human?
I would say loosely, probably loosely like a human. But not scarily, different, yes, very, very tall, very long fingers, long sort of face, looked, you wouldn't say strange, but you would say very different. But I think because most of us were either 3 or 4, I don't think there was anybody there that was older than 4. I think we were all more or less around that age. And apart from if you had looked at somebody and thought, oh, I don't like that person, you wouldn't really at 3, you wouldn't really know how to say, oh, I don't like that one. he wasn't that sort of type of entity or being that you would say, oh my God, look at that. I don't want to go near that one. It was nothing like that. And because there was quite a lot of us, I reckon on the floor there was probably about good 10 or 12 children, more or less. And because they were very quiet about what they were doing, they just used to ask questions or point to things on the floor, and that was it. They never did anything wrong. They never demanded anything. They never said, eat this or drink that or do this or do that. They never did any of that. It was just a very, very peaceful, just sitting and playing with these toys that they'd given, and that was it. And then they brought something to eat, and we had this funny gooey stuff, a bit like porridge but not nice. And of course, a typical 3-year-old is, that's not nice, I don't like that. Yeah, that sort of thing. That was the general reaction. But that was it. There was nothing bad about it. There's nothing I can remember as, people say, well, were they the grey types where they take you for experiments? There was none of that. Didn't have any of that at all. And what was interesting for me is the same person, the same Da'ar, has been in contact with me now for 61 years. It's the same one. So he started then, and he started with all of us. But he is a scientist. He's not a politician. He's not somebody that, goes around fighting wars. He doesn't do any of that. All he does is he reviews planets, he finds planets, and he looks at, I think he might have been a bit of an anthropologist, or he might have been somebody that was studying different, civilizations or something like that. A bit of a squint, definitely a scientist, because, there's that whole sort of theory, analytical logic, not emotionally led at all. He just often says, humans are
click. Well, us humans have got emotions. It's us humans who, we're the ones with emotions. That's why they find us so fascinating, because they don't have them.
No, they don't.
I truly believe that. Yeah.
It's quite funny, actually. But he's really lovely. And, I'll say something, and then you can he'll just sit there and think, okay, what is she actually talking about? And because it's emotive. And that's something I learned very quickly is, do not salt and pepper, whatever you're going to say, with emotional words, because it, that just gets glossed over. And so I ended up with in a way, over time, I ended up with a bit of sense of humor failure, because it was just not something that I'd got used to. But I've got better as time has gone by.
So you're 3 years old and you've missing for 2.5 days, which is equivalent to a 20-year cycle. Yeah. So what happens in those 2.5 days as a 3-year-old that you can remember, what is the word? Fast forwarded you?
Age, well, the ones that they use is age progressed. So your age
progressed.
Yeah, you progressed.
Now, explain that, because if you're 3 years old, you come back 2.5 days later, you're still the same 3-year-old. But I would imagine that
not the same.
Yes,
the same 3-year-old.
But in your body, yes, in your body. But that's why I say in your mind and in your spirit, your being, everything has changed. But you still are the same little Beverli, which I think must be quite difficult, to say the least, for a little kid, because you don't quite know really what's going on. You only used to, let's say, being treated in a certain way by, at that stage, your cruel parents. And then you go to these kind people who did what? Do you remember, other than...
They age progressed first, and this would be pretty much all the children that were there. Everybody was taken to an age where they could understand, they could perceive, they had their higher self, they were able to understand what the different jobs would be that they would be asked to do. It was all explained. this is how old you are now. This is what we are hoping that you would help us with. And it's your free will. And they know full well that humans are sovereign beings, that we have the rights of free will over our own souls and of what we are doing. So from that point of view, you get taken to an age where these beings can turn around and say, we're not experimenting on you, we're not doing anything to you, but we would like to know whether you would like to participate or assist in that particular type of work. And then each one was asked for separate types of work that they were going to be giving for a period of 20 years. And then that's when you then can think about, the first question is, or my one was, am I going to get to go back to my animals? Am I going to get to go back to Earth? Am I going to go back to see my kitten and all these things? That was my first thought, was, oh, wow, I'm not going to see my kitten. That was where I was going. I don't know what everybody else was saying, because I wasn't party to what they were saying, but those were my questions. And they had said, yes, if you decide that, yes, you will assist and you will work with us for a period of 20 years, your time, you will then get brought back to the return room and then age regressed and put back to an area where you will then be found, which is fine. And then they explained the types of jobs that they would probably be asking me to do. They also said there will be an assignment and there will be a person that's your commanding officer, the person that you will listen to, and the person that, if necessary, will get you out of wherever you are in case there is an issue. So in other words, yet another handler, which is just lovely, but nonetheless a lot better than the handler that I had in the UK with the Rhodes family.
So what were they asking you to do then at that stage?
It was no manual labor. I didn't have to do any manual labor or anything like that. All that I had to do was gather different types of intelligence from different types of beings on different levels. So theoretically, when you hear that, you think, oh, how hard can that be? And then you get a chance to get sent back and start your life over again, same age 3, and then start growing up. So that was it. It's intelligence gathering.
Interesting comment here from Overlander. The aging out kids to be able to converse, then reverting it would explain why some kids don't relate to their peers and hang out with adults very early on and grasp complex philosophical concepts. What's your take on that? That's actually a great comment. Thank you.
Yeah, that's 100% correct. 100% correct.
Yeah.
Because, when I got brought back and age regressed back to age 3, there was a lot of difference in my own physical body, huge difference, in fact. So much so that...
What was different? What was different was I came back, and within like 24 hours, maybe even 48 hours of getting back, I was admitted into Plymouth Hospital. And I had significant water on the brain and encephalitis. So they ended up whacking me into the hospital and doing, I think they did 4 or 5 lumbar punctures and caused a lot of damage to the base of my spine. But they did manage to get that off. And they ended up getting most of the liquid. But then I was in hospital for a very long time. And for me, a lot was very different. I was seeing things a lot more than I was previously. I could hear things that most people say, well, that person's not there. I don't know who you're talking to. So, it's almost like developing maybe mediumistic abilities or abilities to see things that other people couldn't see. And just basically became a bit of a misfit at the time. So when I came back from the hospital and was sent back home, and it was very, very different for me. And then obviously they'd already
the family had already started their so-called training to make sure that you were a compliant child. But then what they didn't realize is I had developed a way of being able to push myself out of my body at will and just get out of the way, which is a survival technique that they teach you when you're doing this work as intelligence gathering. They teach you. And that was something that I was very grateful for, because if they hadn't have taught me that, I honestly don't think that I would have survived the 9 years. I don't think so. Because I would have gone through pretty much everything that they were doing. I would have gone through it, and I would have experienced all of it.
I was going to say,
pulled myself out and sat over here.
Because that was actually where my next line of questioning was going to go. I find it very interesting. It was almost like you were being prepared by these off-earthly beings for the torture that you were going to endure by this horrific family that you were a prisoner to. And it's very interesting what you say, because I'm thinking, like, you know, after you've had that and you've had these great conversations with this lovely man that looks different or whatever, you know, very clever, whatever, you know, I can imagine as a kid, that's very amazing for your flowering mind, right? And now you come back and this is what you subjected to. But it makes so much sense that that's how you would have then found the ways out of the trauma as well. I'm interested to know, while we're talking about that, when you dissociated during your traumatic experiences, where did you go? Do you remember? Were you just watching?
I sat on the right-hand side. I remember sitting on the right-hand side, and then I would count. I would just count. I would just random numbers. I would just count. And later, anything that I could count when I knew how to count, because obviously when you're 3, you don't really know how to count. But I would just say random numbers, random things. And that would be it. I would just come out with this almost like a chant in a way. And that was it. I was on the right-hand side, so I could see what was going on, but I would not allow myself to react. And I think that's the thing that pissed them off the most, quite frankly, is that, and that's something I used to do a lot, is when they used to start their nonsense with me, I would just laugh at them. And that's one thing that they really couldn't stand, is, you know, I would just, you know, really, and I would just start laughing. And they hated that. They absolutely hated it. That would piss them off more than anything else. Is, oh, she's, you know, there she goes again. She's laughing at me. And especially if it was, you know, a male chap, and, you know, if he was perhaps not as well endowed as he could be, yeah, I would just laugh at it, and that would be it. Not a good thing. No, because then you just end up getting hurt more. But that was one of the things that I developed, was as a self-defense mechanism, was just laugh at them. But that was very difficult, because then I'm laughing at them and then I'm moving out to the right. So whatever was happening to the body, that's fine. Just let it happen, and then I'll deal with the pain when I get back into my body, which is always what happened. Get back into the body, and then, oh my God, then you just start feeling the pain. So I'm very grateful, because they gave me that opportunity to hone into those as skills and find a way to get through it. I think at some point, I'm not sure, but I think at some point they must have known what was coming, because then why would they give me that skill set to be able to do that if it wasn't going to be needed? So it was very, very fortuitous for me.
Yeah, exactly. That, for me, it makes so much sense what you're saying about needing that. It's amazing how the universe, God, provides, you know, that you were actually given tools awareness. And it's also interesting that in coming back into your body that you got so ill that you literally, it's almost like you had to reintegrate into your little body. Whatever you had, meningitis is all about the brain, right? Swelling of the brain, as far as I know. So I can imagine the brain was just too much. What you'd experienced was just too much for that little body. So your brain was needing to have some time to adjust again. Wow, that's quite incredible. What an amazing understanding, you know, when we see these things and we realize in hindsight how everything is by God's divine hand, actually, you know, that you had this amazing gift at the age of 3, because that's how I see that, as an amazing gift.
Yeah,
that you had the ability,
to get
to escape.
to get out, walk out, stay out there for however long, and then walk back into the, you know, fully incorporate back into your body before you are bundled into the navy blue Morris Minor and driven back, you know, and given a fresh set of knickers from Ladybird, from Marks and Spencer's, because the other ones were gone. So yeah, I think it was, thankfully for me, it was a saving grace, and that's the only way that I can put it, that it was a grace, and being spared away.
Do you ever recall during the, let's say in your first, we're still talking about the first cycle of 20 years. Do you ever recall at that stage, obviously being a child, when you were at some point dissociating, actually connecting or going back to, is it DR? DR again? Do you, do you ever recall, right, so you never went back into that space and received?
Not in the first cycle, because it wasn't necessary. I'd already agreed that I was already aged, progressed enough to understand what was being asked of me at a soul level.
Right.
I asked why? What is the reason? Why is it, with all the technology that you have, why would you need a silly little, you know, human to go and do this work when you could just click your fingers with technology and do whatever you wanted, however you wanted, and obtain that information? And they had said that the reason why we need humans, because they're the best, some of the best warriors across the universe are humans, and secondly, they are the only ones that can capture this information, get the information, because the beings that we are asking you to interface with, they are so clued up on technology, we cannot reach them. It can only be done by pressing the flesh, pressing the being, and building the trust of that being, so that being will talk and share, thinking, wrongly so, thinking that they're safe because there's no tech involved. So there are some things that AI and tech cannot do, and that's only what we can do.
Yes, exactly. Our consciousness, our soul, our emotions, all of these things that make us, you see, this is what I always say, as human beings have got I believe the human, and which is why we are so targeted, because the human has the complete embodiment of God's energy in physical form, but it's not active. It's still contained within our cells. So it's like little seeds that haven't sprouted yet. That's why we're only using between 4 and 10% of our brain power, because our spiritual awareness is not of the level that our brain can actually perceive and conceive what that is. So your brain and is going to work in harmony or unison with what your consciousness is. So the more we awaken spiritually, the more the brain power expands as well. So, I think that is super, super interesting. Okay, I know we've been just for an hour. And I know that I don't want to give you too much on this, because I know this is quite heavy to talk about. But I do want to maybe just ask you, is there anything about cycle 1 that you maybe want to share with us?
I think cycle 1
yeah.
was very, it was the bedrock, so to speak, because it was the first cycle, the very, very first cycle. And it was one of the ones that, luckily for me, when I was returned, and I went through the return room and came back, a lot of what had happened with me there, that stayed within my genetic makeup, and it was within my cells at a soul level, because Creator Source, that energetics allows you to remember, not necessarily actively, but your cells do remember, your body does remember. And that was, I think, the most important for me at that time, was to know, yes, this nonsense does come to an end. Yes, there will be an end to this level of suffering at this level. And that at some point in my life cycle here on the earth plane, some point, I will gain full memory of everything that happened. And I will know who was there, what they were doing, where the place was. And that is exactly what has happened. So, and then that was the baseline for round 2 in 87. And then the final round in 2005, when I did my last 20 years. So there's 60 years off planet. So if you add that to my current age, it makes me close to 121 years old. And that's gave the baseline of, because I was trained, let's face it, I was trained, and they explained to me what they wanted, because it's very specific. The way in which you have to report back to your handler is very specific. It's like a psychic download. It's like a transmission that you send to your handler. Your handler gets those images. They then review those images, and then they listen to whatever it is, whether it's clicks or pops or whatever it is, whatever the language is. They listen to that, and they're able to gather the intelligence that they need, because there's certain beings that cannot be infiltrated. There are some beings that if you go near them with any type of technology, they'll just cut you dead. That's it. You won't be able to infiltrate them. The only thing that can infiltrate them is a level of purity. Now, a child that's 3, age progressed to the age that was necessary in order to be taken to where these individual beings, if you like, could be infiltrated. That is still a very pure soul. I mean, I know of one person particularly that was age progressed. He was 2 days old, 2 days old, 2. And he was age progressed to age 8 only. And when we were in the auction house, he was sitting next to me, and he had these big teeth like a beaver, and I nicknamed him Beaver Boy. I know that sounds really horrible of me, but you know, I had to try to get this little lad to smile, because he was terrified. And he had these big shoes on, like, you know, that there's a clown that has these big floppy shoes, and he had these big shoes. And I said to him, well, from now on, I'm your sister and you Beaver Boy. And he thought that was great. And that was the first time that he'd laughed in all the time that we were in the auction house. And years later, and I'm talking about 2 years ago, so what is that? Say 2024, I met him, and he looked at me and he said, I know you. Are you Sissy? I said, how the hell did you know that name? Where? What? You know, how can you, where? Did you get that? Nobody knew that name. And he says, I remember you. And then we've had a couple of years of meeting, talking through things, looking at stuff. He sees things, I see things, and when we compare notes, and the notes are identical. So that's sort of where things were. And that's why it was something that I said the last time, the 2005 one, they wanted me to go back and go and get the rest of the intel, because I had got it to a point, but then 20 years happened and I had to come back. And then they said, can you just go back to where you were, go back and look the same, be the same, and go and do the last bit of your work. We're going to assign you, I just call him an officer, and the officer will always be outside the door, will always be watching over you. This is the person that's going to look after you. And this is the person that, if anything goes wrong, that's the person that will get you out. One of those, type of individuals that very rarely says anything, but you just know if that person is there, that you'll be safe. And that was the last time, luckily, 2005, that was the last one. I didn't have to do any more after that. That's it, job done. I had turned bodily as a human. I had gone past the age of 60, so I'm past the age of having to go and do any additional work off-world. I can now live my life the way I want to live it. So it's a totally different way of looking at things.
Wow, absolutely. And I'm certainly definitely looking forward to, we're on 1:11:22, as I said, live 1 hour, 11 minutes and 22 seconds as we got to that part of the conversation. I think it's such a fascinating life. There's so many layers to what you've been, what you've experienced. Just as we were saying about that age progression from the age of 3, coming back, needing to be operated on, right? All of that stuff, and learning how to integrate that knowledge in your human body, and at the same time experiencing the worst type of torture and abuse. Yeah. But also at the same time, thank God, having the ability to escape the pain, but then come back at the end. The question I also have, were you able to heal yourself? Because obviously we know our healing abilities are within your own spirit and your own soul. And obviously when you're aligned to God Most High, you are going to receive those abilities anyway. So I'm wondering if you were able to do some of your own healing after the tortures and the abuses that you went through from being bitten in the neck. Oh my God, Beverli.
Yeah, well, I did manage to do a lot of healing. Some things have not been healed. So the main artery on this side here, they did a Doppler scan of the artery because it became really big and swollen. And the doctors, I was up in Blackpool at the time, and it was very big. And they had gone over the main artery, and they just said, the blood is flowing in the wrong direction in the artery. It's obviously been torn, but how is this happening? But it was still functioning, but it's still slightly torn. And I just thought, I am not saying anything. I am not saying a word. I am not going to even mention anything, because, the medical fraternity would have just looked at me and thought, yeah, okay. But yeah, so this is exactly. I wasn't able to sort this out. That was, that's just how it is. And unfortunately for me, the blood issue is an issue, because I'm a very, very rare blood type. Plus, with the sticky blood syndrome, it doesn't flow as it should, and that's due to saliva from. From that one. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, okay. I know you get that relief. I won't say too much, but it's from the saliva.
Leave my neck alone.
I will warn you, they don't just bite in the neck, they also bite in the groin. Just so that you know. There's another very large vein or artery that's just very close to where the tops of your legs are, but on the inside. They can go in there as well.
Those are fangs. I mean, it's just like the most hideous thing I could ever imagine.
At least you wouldn't feel it because it's got natural antibiotic and it's got natural anesthetic. So when they cups you, you're not going to feel it because by that time they've licked that area, which is like an antiseptic, and it puts that whole area to sleep. So when the fangs go in, you're not going to feel it. Seriously, you're not.
Listen, this is absolutely. I mean, I honestly, yeah. But it's really clear to me now. The entire world is governed by vamps, parasites. They literally are, because I mean, they are blood drinking pedos, and whether you do it in adrenochrome form or nab you in the neck form, I would imagine that is probably quite an advanced form of vampirism, because as you say, you've got to actually, it's a process of becoming a vamp. Like if you want to become a vamp, like a human, and you want to become a vamp,
Why would you want to? I mean, the chance that I will tell you very quickly, the percentage of individuals that survive the process, which takes a year, is very small. It's not even 2%, because it is so extreme and it is so painful and it is so foreign that it's most do not survive. They don't. So
I can't imagine that they would. I mean, that is...
No, they don't. How many times was there a cleanup squad sent in to a house, during the nanny period? It was like, oh, okay, there's another one that's a goner. It's one. And the thing is, they can't even predict it. So it might be somebody has got a heart valve problem, or maybe somebody has got something in their own genetic makeup that's just not suitable. There's many, many, many reasons why. This is why the ones that are still around and those that are over 500 years old are day walkers. They can walk in the day. You won't even know. They are the few and far between. I mean, you've got a whole country. You've got an entire city that's being run by a vamp, and that's Istanbul. And there's lots and lots and lots all over the world. And most people probably would have walked across one or been around one. And apart from thinking, ooh, that's a bit of a weird person, that's about all you will feel about that one, because they look a bit plasticky. But you won't think anything else. They are masters. They're like chameleons. They can assimilate. And they know. And funnily enough, someone that I know really well was Big Homie Susie. We've been working on cases with missing children for a long time. And we were just chat, chitty-chatting. And he said to me, he says, I remember meeting one once in Vegas. And he says, I've never seen anything move so fast in my life before. And he says, and this one was right there in my face. I thought, oh, okay, that's them. There we go. So, yeah, there are people that have come across them that realize, we've got a problem here. So it's one of those. And I know you're going to have lots of talks with others about this. So, yeah, this is going to be an interesting one. You're going to get the kharakharas.
I can't imagine anything more creepy. I got to tell you, that has got to be the most creepiest thing. I'm like, get the F away from me, you lunatic. Get your fangs away. Anyway.
But remember, they only engage, the teeth only engage. They only drop down when there's hormones. Yeah, it's only when the hormones start flying. And then there they come, and you think, oh, okay.
Like little needles.
Well, yeah, but also there's some, which is quite interesting. There's some that will grow one of their thumbs, or one of their on the dominant hand. They'll grow one of the thumb or the fingers very, very long. So if they don't want to engage the teeth, they will just push it into an area, and that's like razor sharp. But they don't nowadays, in this day and age, they don't go for the jugular anymore. They're way too clever for that. So they'll go for this area here, or if they're going to be in the throes of passion, they will just disappear down there and then go on the side of the leg, and the person will think, oh my goodness, this is awesome. It's because they're busy biting you on the inside of the thigh, and that's it. It's not obvious.
That's why you don't ever have one night stands, ladies.
No, because you might be the one night stand. I know, shame. Now just popcorn energy. We're all over the place.
After that. But anyway, I definitely, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap it up for today. Okay. I really appreciate you sharing that part of your journey. And then obviously from next week, we'll go, we'll talk about your second cycle of 20 years and then your third and where you are. And I mean, there is this is so interesting because you talk about human tissue auctions that are held there, ovum auction, DNA sales, the mantis beings. I mean, there's a lot we're hearing about the mantis beings. There was a lot of these mantis beings present in Montauk. A lot of the Montauk survivors talk about these mantis beings as well. So there has to be something with that in the DNA, which is fascinating.
Oh, we have a large percentage of mantis being DNA, because there's only two sets of beings that are able at that level of intelligence to manipulate DNA, and that is mantis beings, actually the dwarf mantis being specifically, because that's where Beaver Boy was sold to. He was bought by one of the dwarf head mantis beings, and the other one is a particular strain of Draco reptilians. They are the top DNA manipulators. They are short of absolute.
Makes a lot. What's the dwarf mantis being? I won't keep you much longer. This will be my last. Oops.
No, don't worry. Nothing's biting you. It's okay. It's the ones that they've got this section of their head. It comes right up, and it looks like a helmet. That's the best way to say it. Looks like a helmet, but it's not, and it just houses this amazing brain capacity. So they were just called dwarf mantis beings. So you get the mantis beings, the plain ones, and those are the dwarf ones.
I've heard they're very tall, the mantis beings.
Yeah.
And so the dwarf ones, what, like half their size with the helmet on the head, or looks like a helmet?
Not half the size. I think I've only ever seen a couple once or twice. I think he was the one that bought Joey Beaver Boy. He was about 8. He was only about 8 foot, so that's quite small. But how tall
are the tall ones?
12 feet.
Right.
But he absolutely loved Joey. But Joey Beaver Boy, he loved him. He was like, he slept underneath all where all the experiments were. He helped them with the experiments, and he made a little bed for him underneath, and that's where his bed was. So he was basically, like we would have a cat, we would have a dog. Beaver Boy was the mantis being's pet that used to help him in the labs. Yeah.
Pet. His pet. Okay, explain that. How was he his pet? Like how? Like a cat or
like
a dog?
A cat or a dog. Yeah. And he had.
And what did he do? I mean, like, how was he a pet? What made him a pet? What were his?
Well, he used to stroke him and used to give him preferential food. And he used to give him like all the good jobs. So he never did any of the bad jobs. He never did any of the waste disposal. He never took things out anyway. He never went and did deliveries. He never took deliveries out. He never met any of the crew that was coming to the lab, because it's a separate lab. He never did it. And what's more is Beaver Boy was actually allowed just once, to design. I think he designed a flower or a tree. I can't remember. I need to ask him. It was either a flower or a tree. And then that was in a receptacle. And he went with him to go and show these particular groupings of flora, fauna, etc. And that one little one that he created with DNA was the one that he made, that he designed. So, and if you speak to Joey, he's very fond of the being that was looking after him, and he had to let him go. Like we have to let our animals go, he had to let him go as well.
Did he cry when he let him go, like we let our pets go?
Well, I don't think that.
Did he have emotion yet? Did Beaver Boy not teach him emotion yet? Because usually pets teach us how to love. A lot of people with hard hearts have a pet, you know. So maybe Joe.
Yeah, no, they didn't. No, he didn't. But I think it was more. Beaver Boy from, you know, because you notice when he talks about him, and he talks about his experience and what he was doing, you can just see the way that he speaks about him, that he misses him as his owner, his master, or whatever. He was very, very fond of him.
So is Joe, this guy is still around?
Joey, yes. Yeah, I spoke to him
I think we should ask him if he'll do a show with us, Beverli.
Well, I'll ask him. He's busy writing his book, so you never know. Joey might decide to do that. He's happy that I've mentioned him, because, you know, he's the only one that knew my name, which was a good one. And then there was 2 or 3 others that have come out of the woodwork since, over the last 2 years, that have said, we know who you are. You're Cece, the one that looks after the children on the facility. So I thought, right, I can't say no to that, because that was part of what I was doing. And it becomes very difficult that when you start meeting people that you think, oh, shooey, I know this one. And I just keep stum and I don't say anything. And then they come out with it. And then I can't say no if you know what you're thinking or what you're seeing is wrong. I will validate it. If they say to me, this is what I know you from, this is what it was, this is what I see you as, this is what it was, what have you got to say about that? I will just say, yeah, yes, you're right. I do remember it. And yes, you are correct. What am I supposed to say?
So wild. No, listen, I think we could have a billion stories about this. And I look forward to many, many, many more about these, because it's so true. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind. I mean, I've had visions of what you're talking about. And not from a place of having experienced it, but in my mind, I see it. So it's very interesting. Wow. Fantastic show. Thank you, Beverli. And Michael, thank you so much for your contribution and your support for our channel. Really appreciate you. Thank you. And everybody in the chat for joining us. We will definitely be following up with more of Beverli's off-worldly experiences, and I can tell you they are interesting. She's told me a snippet here and there. Wow, talk about having your mind blown, guys. But and that's why I say, you know, you guys, you survivors, I have so much love and respect for you. I really do, because what you guys have been through, and you come back and you sit with this crap on this planet of humans who just don't get it, and you judged and ridiculed and not believed.
We're just biding our time, survivors, because we just wait for the time where they say, okay, you're up, it's your turn, you can go now. That's what we wait for. We wait to be told, yep, you're okay to leave, you can go, which is perfect, you know, and that's what we wait for. We make sure we don't create more nonsense for ourselves. We don't cause any harm. We don't do any harm. We just end as many contracts as we can, so that, you know, we don't have to come back here. And I don't intend coming back here, that's for sure. Nope.
Yeah, I think it's a rough ride on this planet, that's for sure. But it's where we do our most growth.
Yeah.
I mean, this is where we experience the lower triad, the lower 3 chakras in their inverted form. that's the hell that we, the matrix, we trying to transcend out of at this point in time. And it's all done through frequency, sound, and vibration, guys. Nothing else is going to get you out of here. Nothing. It's your heart center. It's true what you say. This is the vibration of purity. And it doesn't mean that you've got to be a pure virginal being. It just means you've understood your path. You've cleared your karma. You've understood. You're in an open-hearted space, and you appreciate that every life deserves to live, right? So that's amazing. And that's how we work. Life is precious. Life is valuable. I don't care if you're walking on your last leg right now. If you're alive and you're on this earth, and you're taking a breath, your life matters, and it's definitely very valuable.
True.
So thank you again, Bev. Appreciate you very much, and everybody in the chats. And everybody, Michael, thank you. And again, if there's any one of you, we are supporting survivors. There's a survivor who's needing some support right now, very much working with animals as well, helping to sort out a lot of cruelty in the area where he's living. So we could certainly do with your support on this one. Anyone would be willing to support, you're welcome just to click on the link in my PayPal or buy me a coffee or buy us a coffee. Just write for who it's for. And I'd really, really, really appreciate you guys very much. Take care. We will see you tomorrow with the Karen Reed Forensic Eyes on Solutions with Chanti, where we reclaim our spiritual gifts, right? And we use them to shine light there where light has not shone before. So we're looking at Karen Reed. For those of you who missed the beginning, she's the girl who had the cop boyfriend and was accused pretty much of knocking him over and leaving him in the cold snow to die. But alas, do we believe that happened? No, we don't. We definitely don't, because there's a whole gang of cops that definitely ganged up on her. That's for sure. You know, the brotherhood taking care of its own again. So yeah, very interesting. Join us for that tomorrow, and lots more this week as well. Check out our schedule. Beverli, is there anything you want to say where people can get hold of you while I pop your banner up? Any shows or anything?
Well, I'm going to be doing a couple of very unusual ones. I'm just going to go and talk about the different auragraphs and the different energy fields, you know, the ones that we do like tomorrow for the, you can also have that done for yourself. So that's on my website. And just thanks for those that have mentioned here. I see someone here said that they've subbed, which is nice. Because watch this space. We're going to probably do some bits and bobs in the next couple of months with unusual topics, because I think there's going to be some more information. And I know you're going to go really. There's going to be some more information about the vampire nanny. And yeah, no, you don't like it. So what?
No, I'm so good with it. I have PTSD for you, babe. I mean, I can't imagine. I carry your PTSD. I'm sure of it. I'm happy to carry it for you if that's the least I can do.
Good. So I'm gonna do some bits, because there's another trip that's going to be planned, and this time we're going to be brave and go to New Orleans. So that's going to be this year sometime, and we're just going to make sure that I'm very, very careful, because I don't want to end up on the wrong side of the elders, because the elders are the ones that run the vampire groups and the clans, and you got to be very careful.
Elders? What are you talking about? Elders?
Yeah, there's
what elders?
They're a group of elders, that are the final
vampire elders.
Yeah. They're
right.
Very, very old, and you have to be very respectful. And they are the ones that make the decisions. And, you know, basically I will just put it out there and say, this is what I'm going to do. If there's a problem, let me know there's a problem and I'll back off from certain areas. So that's what I will be doing this week. I'm going to let them know this is what's planned, because I know it'll get to them. And if they have a problem with what I'm planning, then they will find a way to come back to me and say, don't do this or don't do that, or that's fine. And then I will just pull back on certain things and not step on any toes.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best way to handle that.
Yeah, but it depends. I mean, they might be okay with some things. They might be not okay with some things, but then that's fine. They'll tell me. And we'll see. I think it could be lots of fun.
Unbelievable. Jeez. Fun in the sun, everybody. Fun in the sun. But there's no sun there where those vamps live. I don't think they know what sunshine feels like. Not proper sun anyway. I think that's why they say there's a false sun in the sky, because it look after all the vampires so that they don't get burnt.
Oh.
I'm kidding.
There are some that can walk in the day. They don't all have to be in the darkness. If they're very young, then they have to stay in the dark. But if they're over 500-600 years old, they get fine for day walking.
But I think that's why they put you often hear about it's not the original sun of ours that's in the sky. So I think maybe the vamps put it there to suit their needs. Because it is a vamp planet after all, if you think about that. I'm just being silly. But yeah, it's interesting nonetheless. There's a reason they would have changed these things to begin with. Very fascinating. Thank you, Beverli. Thank you, everybody. I know I've said thank you and goodbye about 1 million times. Good night, but I promise I'll say goodbye now because I'm actually quite hungry. So I'll have to go and have some food to eat. And
have some food. Have some food.
Yeah. It's 8 o'clock at night. Yeah, definitely. And I'll see you tomorrow night, 7:30 South African time, Sappho time. Bring your chai, bring your legs up, whatever, and enjoy your chai and your coffee and whatever beverage of choice you might have.
And
as
cook
we discuss.
Sisters. And cook sisters.
Cook sisters. Throw my cook sister, sissy. Listen, if you're not a South African, you have not known what a cook sister is. They are the best.
They are
It's
yummy.
a type of dessert sweet.
Donut it's in a twist that's got syrup on it. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Good. Really good. It's one of our local grandmother's dishes, right?
Now you're going to be really hungry.
Yes, I know.
Really hungry now.
And there's a lady here that makes really good cook sisters. You get ones that aren't that nice, but she makes really good. I'm going to place an order tomorrow.
Do it. I wish I could have some.
I am.
Thank
must
you
be
very
someone
much.
there.
I think there is
love,
a South African shop. I think there we go. South African shop, here we come.
Yep, go hang out there. You'll find our sappers there. Take it easy, everybody. God bless you all. And I'll see you tomorrow. Goodbye.
Bye for now.